Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome aboard if you're new, and welcome back to another episode of Tribble's Workshop for SimplePlanes 2. As you can see, we've got a little test plane I made here built, but it's missing something pretty obvious. And that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to build some wings, but not any wings. We are going to make swing wings. So we're going to go through a couple different ways to configure them. We're going to get them set up, and it should be pretty quick and pretty simple. It does require a little bit of config in XML, but nothing more complicated than anything we've done before. So we've got our fuselage planes pretty much built, ready to go. I just spent a bit of time throwing it together for this, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to want wings, and we will build our own. So what we're going to do is we're just going to attach them kind of up here where we want them. And let's get those a different color so we can see them a bit better. Alright. Now, I found the easiest way to do it is get your wings set up in either the fully extended position that you want them in or the retracted position you want them in, because it'll make it easier to get the adjustments done later. So we're going to go with a, let's see here, we'll go with a fairly close to straight wing for that. Length on here, we'll kind of narrow them down a bit. Give them a little bit of an angle back here. Alright. Make them a little bit longer for fun. Alright, that looks okay to start with. Alright, now we are going to want them in the fuselage so they're not, hanging out all weird. So you kind of want to get them lined up where you want them to look when they're fully extended. Let's make these wings a bit more flat. They'll look a bit better. They probably won't function as well, but that's okay. So we're just going to go and switch these to advanced and drop all these down to the minimum. Those are some thin wings, but it'll make it easier for us to get this stuff all lined up. Probably about there looks alright. Let's actually bring that in a bit more. Yeah, we'll see how that looks. Alright, so now that we've got basic wing shapes done, we're going to want to go into the overload XML editor for this, and we're going to want to set the disable aircraft collisions to true, and that's going to make it so it's not interacting with the fuselage. We can do that with the fuselage as well. Alright, now that we've got that, we need to get our hinges set up. So let's go ahead and hide this fuselage so we can see the inside here. And we'll hide this one as well, just with the H key on the keyboard. Now we're going to want our hinges down here in gizmos. We're going to use the hinge rotators. And we're going to want these kind of at the point where we want it to rotate. So kind of at the tip of the wing there. That's where we want it to rotate from. And then we're just going to size this down some so it's not sticking out so much. Get rid of the base. Alright, that's looks alright from here. Alright, next. So, hinges can be fairly confusing because they have a couple different important numbers that you need to pay attention to when you're setting them up to move. The first one's going to be the range. So that's right now 90 degrees each way. So it's at 0 now, so it can go from minus 90 all the way to plus 90. And that's a full, right angle turn. So we're going to turn that down. We're going to go with, we'll start with 25. Now, the next thing you want to keep in mind is going to be in the XML settings for the hinge. And if you go down here to the input controller in the drop down under the part for the hinge, you'll see there's a minimum and a maximum. So the minimum we'll say is when the hinge is all the way to the left, and the maximum is when it's all the way to the right. So it moves from -1 to 0 where it's pointing straight up, and then to 1 where it's all the way to the right. So if we want to restrict that so it only moves one direction, we can just change these real quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this to 0 and hit apply for the hinges. And what that is going to do is that's going to make them so they can only move, or they only consider one direction in their movement. So it will consider, you know, straightforward where it is, and then it'll move one direction, but if you try and move it the other way, it won't. So that's something else you want to keep in mind. Now you can tweak these settings however you want, depending on which way you put the hinge on also is going to make a difference. So we might end up doing, you know, -1 instead of 1 or whatever. So we'll get into that later when we get into how they rotate. And then we're going to leave this. We're going to use the VTOL for it, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a custom input. And we're going to do clamp, and that's going to make it so it moves smoothly. And we're just going to leave it right like that. So clamp 01 VTOL in brackets. All right. Now we need to work on the connections. So we're going to want to go to our part connections here, and we're just going to get rid of all of these. And hinge is good. All right, so we'll start with the wing. Well, actually, let's start with the hinge. We'll connect the back of the hinge to fuselage. That'll be, no, actually, let's, there we go. We'll connect it to the fuselage. It's closest to it. So we'll connect that to the fuselage, and then we'll connect the tip to the wing. All right, so we've got that connected. Then the wing is only connected to the hinge. All right, so that is good. So both of those are set up. Now, let's go into the world and just take a quick look at it. So we've got our plane, we've got our wings that are extended. If we move the VTOL, see that? They're moving the wrong way. We don't want that. And that's what I was talking about with the settings that you can change. So it depends on the way your hinge is facing when you put it in. So I can either go in and I can just rotate the hinges around and flip them. Or what we can do is we can go here and change the max from 1 to -1. And that'll invert the hinges. And we'll make sure that one's all right. And then we'll go back out here and we'll try it again. So there we go. Now they sweep all the way back and forward, and see if we go the other way past 0, it ignores it. So that way you don't end up sweeping them too far forward. But that's not quite far enough. I think I want a bit more. So we're going to go back to our hinges here, and we're going to change it to, we'll say 35 degrees, and we'll slow it down a little bit more. All right. There we go. That's looking a bit better. Very nice. All right. So now we're going to go back in the builder. We've got our hinges set up, our wings set up. We just need to get some control surfaces on them real quick, so bear with me while I do that. Let's put some brake flaps in. Make sure these are set up correctly. Set those to on. And then we'll stick some Fowler flaps on here to use just as standard flaps. Yep, all good. All right, let's go ahead and take a look and see if we can get this thing off the ground. Turn our brake on, get our afterburner going. Flaps down a bit, brake off. And, oh, a little wobbly there. I hit it a little hard. Obviously, I haven't tuned any of the controls yet, so we get some trim in. There we go. Get our flaps back to 0. Alright, now we will sweep our wings in. There we go. We have a functional swing wing aircraft. Now obviously your controls are going to be a little restricted once you've got your wings in, but that's just kind of how they work. So we can sweep them back out here. As you see, we've got a lot more control, but I don't have anything dampened, so it's a little snappy. But as you can see, it doesn't go back the wrong way when we do that. It just waits until we give it the right input to sweep them in. And there we go. We've got a working swing wing aircraft. Pretty easy to make. Alright, so this is going to be a little choppy in the editing, but one thing I forgot to add that I wanted to, I already uploaded the video, but I'm going to fix it and re-upload it. Because there was one other feature I wanted to talk about. If you didn't want to do your wing sweep manually, you can set it to be automatic. So I've already gone through and done it real quick, and I'll just show you how to do it. So all you have to do really is change one thing. You just go to your hinges here, and you go to your custom input. And what you want to do is you want to enter this expression. So smooth, that is going to make it so it closes smoothly. And then your bracket and IAS, so your indicated airspeed, greater than. And then this is in meters per second. So you have to keep that in mind. If you put in something like 600, that's going to be a really high speed. So if you are thinking in kilometers per hour, miles per hour, whatever, you have to convert it to meters per second. It's really easy. You can just go to Google. If you want to know what 600 kilometers an hour is in meters per second, you can Google it and it'll tell you. So essentially, this is going to be the speed that you want the wings to automatically fold in. And then you got your question mark, your open and close state. So essentially, it's just saying that keep the wings open. Once you hit 200 meters per second, fold the wings. And then this 0.2 is going to be the speed that it folds the wings at. So the lower this number, the slower they're going to fold. So once you've got that expression in, all you have to do is just replace that on the hinges with the expression for the VTOL controls. And then we can just go in here and I'll show you how that works real quick. Alright, so we got our plane. We're just going to get our engine cooking here real quick. We'll see if I can take off from this angle. It might be a bit weird, but let's give it a try. Alright, so you see down there our speed's going up. And then we're going to take off. And once we hit the right speed, there we go. They're starting to fold in once we hit about 700 kilometers an hour. And you can adjust that however you want it. And then we'll slow down. And they fold back out once you get under that speed again. So if you want it to be automatically adjusting, you can do that. It's very easy to set up. Alright, so that being said, now that I've explained everything I want to, I hope you've enjoyed this episode and that you've learned something. And if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, take care, be safe, and I will see you later.